Public affairs broadcasting from Rockingham County Radio. On the air and on demand. RCR24.com.
Hello and welcome to the July edition of At Home with ADTS, a monthly radio show where we discuss the supports and services offered by Aging, Disability, and Transit Services of Rockingham County, as well as issues and topics that may be of interest to older adults and their caregivers across the community. I'm Kathy Powers, the Executive Director at ADTS, and joining me as my co-host is Ashley Cooper, who is our Director of Adult Day Services. ADTS has been in operation in Rockingham County since 1973. Formerly known as the Council on Aging, our goal is to assist and link senior adults, people with disabilities, and their families with information, opportunities, and services that promote and enhance their quality of life, as well as working to meet the local transportation needs for our residents. We like to start every show by thanking the local businesses that have supported ADTS over the past year through our Community Partners program. As state and federal funding remains stagnant, these local businesses are helping to expand our ability to meet the ever-growing needs in our community. Thank you to Pelham Transportation, Carolina Apothecary, Wells Fargo, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, the Reedsville Area Foundation, Home Trust Bank, CJ Medical, Rockingham County Arts Council, Sparks Oil, the Church of the Epiphany, Piedmont Natural Gas, Eden Rotary, Woodmont United Methodist Church, and Plaza Mini Storage. We thank you all for your continued support. We also want to take an opportunity to give a special thank you to the United Way of Rockingham County for their long-time and generous support of our Meals on Wheels program. United Way of Rockingham County brings together local people to raise local dollars to meet local needs, and we thank everyone who continues to contribute to their campaign. Now I'm going to turn things over to Ashley, who's going to give us some announcements and introduce us to today's guest.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. First, I want to announce that the Leaf Center is now offering 2 support groups. The first support group is Loving Someone with a Memory Impairment. It meets the second Monday of every month from 1:30 to 3 o'clock. That is for anyone who is a caregiver or might view themselves as a caregiver. That also is supporting somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's or anything that's related to that diagnosis. We'd love to have you out. And then we also have Mind Over Matter. That is actually a new partnership that we're doing with Annie Penn Rehab. And what we are offering is every third Monday of the month from 1:30 to 3. That's the time that we like. We are doing a support group for individuals who have had a stroke or some type of brain trauma. And this will be our second meeting, and the first meeting was a great success, and we look forward to having more individuals who have experienced a stroke or brain trauma, as well as their caregivers. And again, that meets the third Monday, from 1:30 to 3 at the Leaf Center. And the Leaf Center is located at 104 North Washington Avenue in Reedsville. And if they have any questions, they can contact myself at 336-347-2328. That's 347-2328.
And mentioning the Leaf Center, I just thought of one more announcement that we left off the list. There will be a senior health fair on July 26th at Our Care, which is at 102 North Washington Avenue in Reedsville.
Yes, thank you. Today with us, we have some individuals from Adult Protective Services Division serving in Rockingham County. We have Carrie Friese, Melanie Hankins, and Anna Sizemore. So thank y'all for joining us. Before we get started, if you could just introduce yourselves and tell us what you do at APS.
Okay, I guess I'll start. My name is Carrie Friese, and I work for Rockingham County Department of Social Services. I've worked for Rockingham County for 21 years, but only the last 7 or 8 years or so have been involved in adult services. I had previously worked at mental health and worked in child services at social services, so I've been working with adults for a few years.
A little bit of time.
A little bit, yeah.
Melanie?
My name is Melanie Hankins, and I've been employed with the county for almost 28 years. My time, I've worked with mentally ill adults. I've actually been in adult services at DSS for about the past 12 years. Worked for 9 years doing adult protective services, and most recently changed jobs to, I'm an adult home specialist now, where I go out and monitor the facilities in the community, family care homes, assisted livings, and I am backup APS if they need help.
Yes.
Which we often call on her for.
Lots of experience to tap
Yes.
into there.
Unfortunately and fortunately, I've had some experience with Melanie through our center, recognizing that there might be some folks who are in danger, and so how to access that service. But we've had wonderful experiences so far. So.
My name is Anna Sizemore. I've been employed with the county for 9 months, and I have been doing APS for that 9 months. So I'm still pretty new, and I actually go to Melanie and Carrie a lot. So
It's good that y'all are able to help each other out and support each other.
Well, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you taking time to come out today. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was fraud and financial exploitation and scams. It seems like periodically these things will come up with the participants that we serve, where they'll give us a call and say, you know, I got a phone call that's not quite right. Or somebody came by my apartment today wanting to see my medication, or these kind of things. And so we thought this would be a great topic for you guys to come in and just kind of talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you see. Now, I would say that abuse takes many forms, and so I'm sure that you look into fraud and those kind of things, but it's not completely what you guys investigate. So can you just talk to us a little bit about the kinds of things that APS would get involved in?
Sure. I'll take you. We take it.
That's fine.
Okay. By the statute in the state of North Carolina, we check on disabled adults who are alleged to be abused, neglected, or exploited by a caregiver, and in need of protection, meaning they for whatever reason can't protect themselves. Except in the case of exploitation, it doesn't have to be by a caregiver, and they don't have to be a disabled adult. It can be any person who's alleged to be financially exploited. Excuse me. Then we can take a look at that. But typically, by statute, those are the folks that we're engaged in and taking reports on, and an adult, any adult, meaning from age 18 to 118, that's all the folks we're looking at, and it's any varying range of disabilities that the person may have, whether it be a young adult with a developmental disability or an older adult who has some form of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, or any combination or mix of anything in between.
So it's not cookie cutter.
No.
two cases are the same. And I know that a lot of times as staff here will say, is this an APS situation? Is it not? And we always err on the side of call you and let you know. And you guys know the statute, and you know what you can get involved in and what you can't. So we always err on the side of, let's talk to the experts.
Right. Yes. And when we call in, it's always been just ask a few questions in a little bit more detail, and very easy to find out whether or not it is, or if we need to explore it a little bit more.
Sure.
So
I was just going to, I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to add, a lot of times people call us with the same type questions, even if it's just people in the community, and they'll, well, we don't know if this is really something you could do. And, so we handle that in the same way you guys would handle people calling you. Yes, it may not be anything we can do, but we can also offer other resources or agencies or avenues that could be available to them to help them. So we do that too.
Right. I often find that people think when they think of adult protective services, it's abuse, neglect, something that's kind of in your face and easy to see or visualize. And as Kathy mentioned, financial exploitation is definitely something that people are not a lot of times willing to share. It kind of is something that maybe a caregiver comes across, or there's flags that they start to see. Can you tell us what financial exploitation to y'all would look like?
Sure. You want to take that?
Listen. For us, when we get a report, a lot of times, or more times than not, family is there's a family member, relative, that is actually doing the financial exploiting on the adult. There can be situations that we have where it could be a stranger. Most times it's not. It's usually family. And then some of the scams that are going on right now, that can be anybody that has somehow just found this victim by calling them and they keep calling until they, can get something from them.
Right. Are there like warning signs or things that people can pay attention to? And again, people aren't quite often willing to share that they've lost their savings. So, or that maybe there's a caregiver, a paid caregiver, who might be becoming a little too friendly or something like that. Are there certain signs that we can look for?
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of times the banks, they call us sometimes, and their report might be, Miss Smith has been coming into the bank for years and years and years. Normally she withdraws this amount of money, but for about the past 6 months, she's not coming in the bank anymore. There's a person bringing her through the drive-through, and they're, telling her to withdraw this amount of money. So a lot of times the banks, have good eyes, and they know people's patterns.
Right.
Sometimes they might call us and say, well, this person's been coming in. They're a little bit more confused than usual. They've come in 3 times today wanting to know their bank balance and, that kind of thing. But, I think a lot of times the financial exploitation doesn't get reported because some of the people are embarrassed.
Yeah.
I think some of the older adults especially if they've been scammed.
Right.
They're embarrassed and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit it.
Right.
To anybody.
Yes.
What does this mean? Is my family going to think I can't stay on my own?
Right,
Or are we going to
exactly.
talk about nursing facility placement, those kind of things?
Right.
And a lot of other things that sometimes family can notice is just a change in the pattern or the normal behavior or pattern of their mother or father or whoever it is. If they've always paid their bills on time and you go in the house and their power's out, there's something going on.
Right.
They may not necessarily be being exploited by someone, but maybe there's a memory issue or there's usually people are creatures of habit, especially some of our older folks. And when the pattern changes, you need to pay attention to that. Or if there's, suddenly people that have not ever really had a lot of contact with them, they start talking about this person more frequently, or you just have to pay attention to things that they may slip and tell you, even if they're trying to hide something from you.
In our house, we call it mentionitis. When someone keeps mentioning, suddenly you're hearing this name more, and you're like, this is not somebody you
Right,
talked
who is
about
that?
a lot.
Right.
But usually it's someone in our house, that there's a love interest.
Yeah.
But still pay attention.
Sure.
Right.
And one of the things that you noted, Melanie, with the banks, that's so valuable because I imagine you don't get that in urban areas. That's one of the
Right.
benefits of living
Of
in a
the
community
small
like
town
ours.
community,
You know
definitely.
who's coming in and you know what their patterns look like. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, but speaking of mentionitis, I had a caregiver contact me not too long ago that she felt like maybe her paid caregiver was taking advantage of the kindness of her father, and she wasn't sure, and he started getting really defensive whenever she would bring him up or the situation. And apparently she had asked him to co-sign a car loan or something like that, and she's like, I never thought that I would have to tell my dad that he couldn't do something, or that we needed to kind of take a step back from that. But he mentioned it, and then a couple of times, and how wonderful she was, and she works really hard, and if I could just help her out a little bit, and so for her it was just the mentioning of it, and then just having some open eyes and ears. We like to think that we have a good judge of character sometimes. So when we let people into our home, clearly we would have picked the right type of person, but sometimes it's not. You're not really that sure.
So when we talk about exploitation, I don't know if there's overlap or not, but one of the things that we're hearing a lot in the community is about the opioid crisis. And we know that a lot of the seniors that we serve have a lot of medications in the house. Are you finding that there's any correlation between those two things going on?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Absolutely.
I don't know who wants to talk.
Go ahead.
Kind of backtracking a little bit, we're even having issues with reports being called in on elderly people that are addicted to opioids.
Wow.
And, that's affecting their ability. They're not paying their bills. They're not making sure they have food in the home, that kind of thing. Because, maybe they had a surgery 3 years ago and they're hooked on their pain pills now, but it's affecting their daily living and decisions they make. But what we're seeing a lot of is relatives, a son, a grandson, grandchild, whatever. They might know that grandma has got pain pills or Xanax or any type of, pill that could go for something, on the street would be very expensive. They could get some money out of it, or they want it. But majority of the times, it's family. Most of the time, as far as the opioid issues, it's not just people off the street that stop at your house and want to come in and look through your medicine cabinet.
Right.
But it's usually
Not that doesn't happen.
right. Now that can
Because
happen.
we've had a few cases, not a lot. Of course, what Melanie was describing is more frequently happening, where it's a family member who has a drug problem and stealing their money or stealing their pills. But we've very recently, someone in Walmart has come up to an elderly couple and struck up a conversation and you look like you need some help. Why don't you let me help you? I can follow you to your house and help you put up your groceries. And this went on for several days until the medication was delivered, and then lo and behold, the pills disappeared and so did she.
Wow.
So not to say that it doesn't happen, because it does. You just have to be very, very careful about who you trust and who you allow in your home.
Right. Well, and in the South, we want to be nice.
Right.
Exactly.
And we don't want to assume that people aren't there under whatever
Good intentions.
circumstances that they've said they're there. Are there any steps that people can take if they know that they've got medications in their home, either current or expired, to protect themselves and those medications?
I think definitely, especially if they've got people coming in and out, lock your medicines up. Get some type of lock box, filing cabinet that'll lock something that you can lock your medicine up in.
Yeah.
And then that way you keep the key and nobody else would have access, to it. Would be the easiest thing to do.
Do you find that there's certain individuals who may be at greater risk of being exploited than other individuals? Is there usually just like a type or a characteristic?
Well, most often would be individuals who are having some kind of cognitive or memory loss, that just aren't as sharp as they once were, or aren't as aware of what was going on. Certainly have some increased needs. Sometimes, unfortunately, it gets to the point that this grandchild could be threatening their grandmother or grandfather. Well, if you don't let me have this medicine, I'm not going to come help you anymore. I'm not going to take you to the doctor. I'm not going to go get your groceries for you. And that does happen. And a lot of times what we've seen with these telephone scams, these scammers that are calling these people and getting them to give them all kinds of money, I would say probably every case that I've had, it has been a single person who lives alone. And my opinion is, I think some of that is loneliness, because now they have someone to talk to, even if it's kind of negative stuff. They're still engaged in conversation. There's somebody that's calling them frequently, and I think that's part of the problem, because we've had people who say, I know better. I knew better than to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why I did that. Even when you confront them with it, but still, I think that loneliness is part of it.
Yeah.
For those type of things.
Well, I'm sure these scammers don't call up and start yelling at them. I'm sure they're, laying it on thick and probably
Oh yes.
Right.
giving them
Establishing
compliments.
rapport,
And,
yes.
Exactly.
Oh yes.
Absolutely. Are there other scams that are kind of going around right now, or things that our seniors need to know about?
I would say the one we've heard about the most recently is the one where people they're being called because you've won something. You've won a prize, or we have this box of prizes for you. You have a fur coat and you have some jewelry, and it's $2 million in cash, and even some people are told they're going to have a car. And the scam is the same. Even when we've confronted people with, did they tell you that you need to send $1,000 more because your prize box is held up in customs? Well, yeah, they did tell me that. Okay, it's a scam. They tell everybody that. Or they call you back the next day, and it's the same thing. Oh, well, this has happened, so we need you to send $500 more. Or this has happened. Or it's a new person that calls you the next day. We have uncovered that person you were working with was scamming you. Now we're the real guys.
Wow.
We're really going to help you, but you need to send us $1,000 by Friday. And people are believing it. Like, well, they told me that other guy was scamming me, but these aren't. And, we try everything we can do to explain to them it's all a scam. It's the same story, the same, different people hear the same story. Like, don't send them anything. You're not winning anything. Yeah. And before they know it, they have not paid a single bill for the entire month, and they have no money. And they have no food. And then they say, well, what are we going to do?
Right.
Like, well,
And
we can't help you. I mean, I'm sorry. There's, we can try to hook them up with churches or other resources to get them food and things like that. But there's very little that law enforcement can do, that we can do.
Impossible to prosecute those.
Right. Well, they can't find them.
Right.
Yeah, most of the scammers don't live here. They're not living 10 miles down the road. They're 10 states away, or they're in another country.
Right.
So, the police don't have jurisdiction here to go to California and try to, prosecute somebody for, exploiting this little elderly lady. But, yeah.
And let me add this as well. This was one that was happening. This lady, on her caller ID, it showed up as such and such law firm in Texas. Well, she was a little savvy, and she got on the internet and looked up this law office, and it was a real law office. And so she called the number back thinking that she was really speaking to someone at the law office, but it was the scammers. They had scammed her because they have, I don't know what the term for it is, but where they can, your caller ID, spoofing, yes. Where the number shows up as a reasonable number or some number that is an actual,
showing up a lot.
Yeah, that's an actual number to a legitimate business, but it's not really that business.
So criminals aren't idiots. They
No.
find ways to get around it.
No.
Yes.
Well,
And I'm sorry to interrupt,
No,
and
no.
we always tell people, do you think this sounds too good to be true? Like, can you really believe that you won this?
Right.
And they'll say, no, it is too good to be true. I'm like, yes, it is, because it's not true.
Yeah.
So don't fall for it. It's not true.
One of the things that we've heard about too are the people getting phone calls saying there's a virus on your computer. You need to go onto your computer, and we will walk you through this.
Right.
And I know just from my own parents that at a certain age you don't feel incredibly tech savvy.
Right.
So if someone calls you and says there's a virus on your computer, there's some likelihood that you're going to believe that. And then before you know it, they've accessed everything on your computer and have your social security and everything else about you.
I've gotten that phone call at my house before.
Me too.
And I laugh at them. I say, really? Well, my husband is in IT. I'm going to have to speak to him about it. Click, and they hang up immediately. But it's not funny, but because a lot of people do believe it and go right with it.
Sure, absolutely.
And unfortunately, we've had people that we've gone out and seen try to explain to them this is not real. And you kind of make a little bit of headway while you're with them that they're like, well, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Well, then we get a call 2 weeks later from whoever called it in to begin with that they just went back to the bank and sent, $50,000 back to this number. So they don't stop.
Right.
Because it's the draw of just you think you're going to get something. I had a case one time where it was a lady that was in her 70s. She had a sister and they had no other family. Her sister was placed in a facility here and her money was running out. And so my lady that they were calling, she wanted to try to win some money so that she could help pay for her sister's stay. And that's all she had on her mind was, I need to get this money to help pay for my sister's stay at the facility. So she kept sending them her money thinking, they're telling her, well, if you send us $10,000, you're going to get $1 million back, or you're going to get $100,000.
Right.
And it's very sad.
Crimes
And
of
I've
opportunity.
had some of the people get mad at me. Well, how do you know it's not real?
Don't rain on our parade.
Don't kill the messenger.
Like, well, I'm sorry, but it's not. And it's difficult to. Well, have you talked to them? Do you know where they are? no, because we don't know, but
And they've established that rapport.
Right.
Like I said, they're very good at being, of taking advantage of folks.
but they're
and
so
that
nice. They're
And they
this,
call
they're that.
them constantly. I mean, once it starts,
Yes.
I've been at houses before talking about this, and the people
phone
not
is constantly
Yeah.
ringing.
Wow.
Constantly.
So, what does someone do if they think maybe they've been a victim of fraud?
I think the first thing, if they can contact law enforcement, like I said, sometimes it is difficult for them to track the people down, but you never know, they might could. It could be a situation where they can. Definitely contact law enforcement in their whatever city or county that they live in, and call us. They can call us. It might not be anything, that we can do prosecuting anybody and getting it to that point, but still, there might be some measures we could put in place or, stop it from happening again. Can't stop what's happened in the past, but we might can help them with stopping it in the future.
And just tell somebody.
Yeah.
Tell somebody that you trust, whether it's you call us or it's a family member or somebody you go to church with. Confide in somebody and let them help you, because you need to get to your bank and you may need to change all of your account numbers if you've given that information out. You may need to change your phone number. Certainly stop answering your phone until you can change your phone number if it gets to that point. I know some people have had to do that, but just tell somebody and reach out for some help.
And don't be embarrassed. I mean,
Right.
it could happen to anybody.
It
It's
really
happened
can,
yes.
to
Yes.
people you wouldn't believe.
Like we
Right.
said, these criminals are smart, and it's no
They
reflection
are,
on
and they're
you.
getting smarter and figuring out
It's
more
happening.
ways to get over on somebody.
So, if someone were going to contact you, what's that contact number?
336-342-1394. And to kind of cut down on some confusion, because I think our phone system is confusing, once they call that number, if they'll press 2, that will actually get you to somebody in adult services that's answering the phone.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, ladies. I
Yes,
think
thank
this has
you
been
very much.
really beneficial. I hope people have learned something. I know
I have.
I've learned something,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Looks like that's all we've got time for today. We want to thank everyone for listening and watching. We hope that you found the information beneficial. Again, if you feel like you're being exploited or scammed, you can call your local law enforcement or call Adult Protective Services at 342-1394, and then you press 2 to get to the Adult Services Division. For more information on programs and services offered through ADTS, you can always visit us at our website at adtsrc.org or give us a call at the office at 336-349-2343. We hope you can all join us again next month when we're going to talk a little bit about advanced planning, including exploring the differences between advanced directives and living wills and DNR orders and those kind of things. We thank you again for listening, and remember that ADTS is here to help you and your family age with dignity and independence in your own home. Thank you.